So I'm in quantum mechanics. I think this is like junior year. And I've also been taking a bunch of computer science classes and electrical engineering classes, which I'm also enjoying. And I can't solve this partial differential equation. It's really, really hard. And I've been studying with my roommate, Joe, who also is really good at math. And the two of us worked on this one homework problem for 3 hours and got nowhere. And we finally said, we looked up at each other over the table at the same moment. We said, Yo Santa. Because Yo Santa was the smartest guy at Princeton. And we went to Yo Santa's room, and he was Sri Lankan. And in the Facebook, which was an actual paper book at that time, his name was 3 lines long, because I guess in Sri Lanka, when you do something good for the king, they give you an extra syllable on your name. And so he had a super long last name, the most humble, wonderful guy. And we show him this problem. And he looks at it, he stares at it for a while, and he says, cosine. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, that's the answer. And I'm like, that's the answer? And he's like, yeah, let me show you. So he brings us into his room. He sits us down. He writes out 3 pages of detailed algebra. Everything crosses out, and the answer is cosine. And I said, listen, Yo Santa, did you just do that in your head? And he said, no, that would be impossible. 3 years ago, I solved a very similar problem, and I was able to map this problem onto that problem, and then it was immediately obvious that the answer was cosine. And that was an important moment for me, because that was the very moment when I realized I was never going to be a great theoretical physicist.
There are a couple of points I want to make off this. The first, for those who want to become great mathematicians, or really great in anything, you know, a lot is talked about work ethic, and that is tremendously important in any particular field. And of course, skill. So if you want to be a great mathematician, you should be very intelligent in math, of course, and you should have a great work ethic in order to improve and get better. But in addition, there must be a level of supreme confidence and perseverance. So you can work hard at something, but eventually quit. So in the video shown, Jeff Bezos talked about working on a partial differential equation for 3 hours. And just think, how many of you would work on one single problem for up to 3 hours? A lot of people, if they can't figure it out in 10 minutes, they classify it as impossible, or at least impossible for them, and they move on to the next problem. They're either, these days, will try to Google the answer, or Wolfram Alpha the answer, or whatever type of electronic trick, or ask the smart guy in the class. You know, they'll give it maybe 10 minutes max. You know, if it's I can't figure it out in 10 minutes, it's just not a problem that I can't solve. So at least Bezos and his friend gave it 3 hours. Now, it's somewhat disappointing that they, gave up after those 3 hours and went to ask for help. But they gave it the 3 hours. Just to briefly talk about what made me, when I started becoming very talented in mathematics, is we would get these homeworks, and everyone who has done some advanced level mathematics understands when you get to a certain level, there's generally 1 to 2 problems in a problem set that appear to be impossible. And so I remember sitting, looking, and trying problems. I don't know exactly how long it was, but I think it was more than 3 hours. But I just said to myself, I can figure this out, because at points I would get close. It would be very close. It led me to believe I was in the right direction, that it could be solved, and then it just wouldn't work out. And so I just try to think of another thing, and I would just try and try and try. But what I did is I just persevered, and I just really kept trying until I figured it out. I did not want to quit. And so what eventually happened is, so we would be given this homework, and we would walk to class. And so on the way to class, there was, a little vacant room where you can sit and meet. And, a lot of the people in the class would sit in that class, before class started. And then as I and other people pass by, they would say, did you figure out number 7 or whatever the hard problem was? Did you figure out number 8? And, that first time, I figured it out. And I would explain, and I felt pretty proud because I was the only one that passed by that actually figured it out. So the next problem set rolls around. And then again, there's another problem, say it's problem 11, that seems impossible. And so I'm working on it multiple hours, trying to just figure out how to start the problem off. And I'm a little tempted to quit because this one seems worse than the one in the first problem set. But as I'm thinking about quitting, I'm thinking about they're going to be waiting in that room. And I don't want to pass by and say I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure it out. So now there's some pride and some ego that makes me persevere. And so really, I'm not making any much headway. It's not like the previous problem set where I was getting very close and it just wasn't working out. I just kept finding I'm not making any headway, but I just keep working at it. Like I figure it's a problem that can be solved. Someone has done it before me. Someone will figure it out after me. So why can't I figure it out? And so I eventually get it. And very proud moment. So now, of course, next, whenever the homework is done, walking through, people ask the question. Yeah, I figured it out. I explain, were they really did they really want my explanation of what I did, or did they just want the answer? That's a debate. But those first 2 moments gave me the confidence. Now, the second moment, of course, it gave me the confidence that I really can do this. There's no problem I can't do. And then on top of that, the added pressure of knowing when I walk to class the next day or whenever the problem set is due, they're going to be waiting. And now the expectation is that I'm the guy that can solve the hard problems. And so that's a banner I wore and a banner I cherished. And that expectation helped me persevere. And I think out of all the problems we did, out of all the problem sets we did, there may have been one time in this particular case where I was unable to solve the problem. And I think that day I might have came to class maybe 1 minute before the class started. So they couldn't ask me. And in fact, I'm kind of thinking, remembering walking into class and they kind of looking at me and I couldn't do it. So of course this is before the days of texting and whatnot, and this of course before the days of Googling a solution. In these days you had to figure it out. You were the only one you could depend on, and so that led to great confidence. And so my point is, in addition to being very intelligent and having a tremendous work ethic, your hard work must be coupled with perseverance and confidence. The only way you're going to persevere if you believe you can do it. If you don't believe you can do it, you're not going to keep doing it because you don't believe you can do it. So you have to have that confidence. And sometimes the confidence must be developed. And so sometimes you just got to persevere, and then, hey, you kind of surprise yourself. Hey, I really going in, I didn't think I was going to be able to solve that. And I actually did. And so now my confidence is up. So now I'm more apt on the next challenge not to give in because my confidence is up. And then when you get the next one, then you're more apt on the next one to give in. And it's just a spiraling effect. And this builds your confidence, which in turn builds your perseverance. And now your work ethic is at a little level higher, because a work ethic that stops at some point because something seems impossible isn't the supreme or the optimal work ethic. So now the work ethic is at its highest moment. And this is when you can reach your true potential. So my message in closing to all students out there doing advanced level mathematics, don't think that when you can't solve a problem in 5 minutes, that it's impossible to solve. Give it the time. Now, you might not have, due to work schedule or whatever, you might not have the time like I had to dedicate 6-7 hours to solve a particular problem. Maybe you don't have that time, not sure. but give it as much time as you have available. Because if you have the talent, if you're capable, and I want to believe that you are, when you figure that first one out, the next time, the next challenge is going to be, I'm not going to say the next challenge is going to be easier, but you're going to be less likely to quit on the next challenge because of the confidence that was built on the first one. And then it just continues from there. So in addition to being talented, having the intelligence, working hard, you have to persevere and be supremely confident to truly excel at whatever you want to excel at. We'll see you next time.